Hello there, my name is Dr. Vanessa Sheldon. You can call me Dr. V. And I'm here to show you a few things about my instrument, the harp. Harps, as you can see, come in all shapes and sizes. These are a couple of extreme examples. And the harp is one of the oldest instruments in the world. In fact, we think the first harp was actually the bow of the bow and arrow. So imagine back in the times of ancient man, going out hunting with your bow and arrow, using the arrow to procure your dinner, then bringing it back, telling the exciting tale of the hunt to the rest of your family, adding excitement by plucking the one string of the bow. Fast forward a few hundred years to the era of the ancient Greeks. They had a harp that looked very similar to this, but only had 5 strings and was called the lyre. Ever since then, we've been adding more and more strings. Thankfully, we stopped when we got to 47, which is the number of strings on this full-size harp that you see here. This smaller harp is a particular model called the harpsichord. I think it got its name because it looks a little bit like it could be made of popsicle sticks, really big popsicle sticks. But whatever the harp is, you still have the same layout of strings. The red strings are C's, and the blue strings, which are sometimes black, are F's. So if we play each string in succession from C to C, we get a C scale. It's like playing the white keys of the piano. So you might think, where are the black keys? And that's a long story. That is something harp makers have been trying to figure out for hundreds of years. And we'll talk a little bit more about it when I show you my white harp. One thing about harpists that's different from pianists is we don't play with our pinkies. We just use our thumbs and our 3 fingers. Which means that music that was written for the piano for 10 fingers can be a little bit difficult to adapt for the harp, but we can do it. We just have to be creative about it. For instance, recognize this? No, I didn't leave my phone on, but that is my iPhone impression. Happens to be a D minor arpeggio on the harp. But I can tell it wasn't actually written for harp because it is a 10-note arpeggio. So whoever programmed it probably used all 10 fingers on a synthesizer. To play it on harp, we only have 4 fingers, so I have to bring my left hand over to catch the rest of the notes. But the harp is capable of so many different sounds, much more than just impersonating an iPhone. In 1811, the double action pedal harp, which is today's modern harp, was invented. It's called double action because each of the 7 pedals has 3 positions, so you can move it 2 ways. Each pedal is associated with 1 note in the scale. So from left to right, we have D, C, B, E, F, G, A. Or, did Charlie Brown ever find green apples? Each of the 3 positions refers to flat, natural, and sharp. And it's connected through a whole bunch of parts. There are over 2,000 moving parts in a modern pedal harp. Going up the column, to the neck, and to those discs. So here we have a red string. This is C. Right now, I'm going to put it in the flat position. So you can see that the string is stopped here, but it hangs loose for the rest of the length of the string all the way down to the soundboard. So now it is a C flat. And so, by the way, are all of the rest of the C's of the harp. Now, if I take the pedal and I move it into the natural position, you can see that the disc has stopped the string. It's kind of like going up a fret on a guitar. Now we have C natural. It's done the same to the other C's as well. And finally, if we make the C sharp, the second disc engages, and now the string is 2 half steps shorter, kind of like 2 frets on a guitar, and now all of the C's are sharp. So I went ahead and put some shoes on so that my teacher wouldn't get mad at me. She wouldn't like me playing my harp barefoot, even though it is sometimes fun. So now that we have our 7 pedals, we can set them to any pattern we want, any key signature, any scale. The difficulty comes when there are accidentals or key change, and then we have to move the pedals without anyone really noticing. That's one reason harpists like to wear long skirts, so it kind of distracts the audience. Of course, our hands are usually pretty busy as well. And if a string is still ringing while we move the pedal, it gets a sliding sound, which in classical music is a mistake. But in other music, it can be pretty fun. Perhaps you recognize this theme. So that was the Pink Panther theme. A lot of fun to play on the harp, and a lot of pedal motion going on behind the scenes. There are so many different sound effects we can make on the harp. One is to play very low on the strings, close to the soundboard, sometimes with our nails, which makes it sound like a Japanese koto. Another thing we can do are in harmonics, which sound an octave higher than they are written. Kind of have a bell-like quality. We can also imitate the walking bass in jazz. Since the harp has 7 pedals with 3 positions for each pedal, instead of just making 12 tones in each octave like a piano can, we can actually make 21. Now, a lot of those sound the same to the ear, so we use that trick when doing something called the glissando, which is from the Italian to slide. Glissandos are very, very stereotypical for harp. Right? Everyone thinks harpists and glissandos go together. Some people think that's all we do, but it's only a very little bit. And as lovely as that glissando is, by changing the pedal settings, we can make it sound really ethereal, very pretty. We can give it a sense of suspense. Or a sense of great drama. That one always reminds me of a soap opera. Something really dramatic has just happened, and they stare at each other. What? Now I'm going to play another piece for you from Star Wars. This one has quite a few glissandos. It has some bass imitation that we call slap bass, because we're actually slapping gently the instrument. And it has a lot of pedal slides. And after this, you will see a video of a concert I performed in Cercedilla, Spain, where I introduced the next piece in Spanish. And I talk about how the harp sounds a little bit like a guitar and a little bit like a piano at the same time. profesora de arpa, que era la artista de la banda sonora original de la película Star Wars. Ella murió en marzo y yo toqué esta para honrarla. La siguiente composición, que todos conocen, originalmente para el piano y puede haber oído también en la guitarra. Cuando lo arreglé para arpa, me pareció que suena como un piano y una guitarra tocando juntos. Espero que los disfruten. I have one more video to share with you today, and that's of me performing the Bualgia harp concerto with my orchestra at Mount San Jacinto College, which I also conduct. However, I can't conduct and play harp at the same time, so our lovely concertmaster, Francis Moore, is conducting while I am playing a harp solo. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope this has answered some questions and maybe inspired you to learn more about the harp and perhaps even play it.